Welcome to my channel on the best of fantasy. These are the weeks that were, are, and shall be. I want to start with a big announcement. The Way of Edan has been translated by the incredible Abel Montero into Italian. Just the idea that The Way of Edan, one of my books, has been translated into another language is absolutely thrilling to me. But the fact is, I know that Abel is a huge fan of fantasy, and he is not just a wonderful person, but he is a dedicated writer himself. And I am really excited, though I don't speak or read Italian. I'm very sure that Abel has done an incredible job with this. So yeah, I don't have a release date as of yet, but we do have a cover, and he's pretty much done with the actual translating. So be on the lookout for announcements about the release of the Italian version of The Way of Edan. And a huge thank you to Abel for all his hard work that he's put into this. And I will be having a discussion with him about the translation process for specifically The Way of Edan. But we'll talk about translation, we'll talk about his writing, we'll talk about the fantasy scene in Italy, which he is very knowledgeable about. So I'm really excited to chat with Abel, so be on the lookout for that. I also wanted to read a lovely comment. This is what keeps me going, guys. When I hear from people who have read the books, who've read the Edan trilogy or While Darkness Gathers, it really means a ton to me that people take the time to let me know about their experience, to leave reviews on Amazon or on Goodreads or wherever people leave reviews. It just means the world to me. And it does really motivate me to keep writing. So just wanted to read a lovely comment from one of you left on one of my videos recently. I just finished While Darkness Gathers, and I loved it. I thought the writing was great. Some of the familial revelations and the ending brought me to tears. I also loved the exploration of violence and how to face cruelty and kindness with empathy. The story lifted my spirits and gave me a little hope in troubling times. That just means the world to me, that something I wrote could have struck someone in that way. And the idea that, that this person saw what I was trying to do in terms of portraying compassion, and that it was something that this person found uplifting it's a thrill to me. So thank you so much for that lovely comment, and to all of you who've been so supportive. Now let's talk about what I have been up to on the channel. I've had quite a few videos since the last episode of The Weeks That Were. It's been a little bit, a month or so. So let's begin with the discussion I had with the wonderful people who put together Ethos, a dark fantasy anthology. Now I got the chance to speak with several of the authors, wonderful people, and I read 4 of the 6 novellas that are inside Ethos, and it was a really great discussion. If you want to have some notion of what goes into that, we kept it spoiler-free, so you could watch that video if you want to learn more about the anthology and what's inside it. But these 6 really great people, I had the privilege of interacting with all of them in some way or other on social media, but it was great to sit down with 3 of the 6 and discuss this wonderful, and it's fully funded, by the way, and I think they met some of their stretch goals. So there's going to be art for every single one of the stories in there, for example. So yeah, check that out. I also had a discussion with 2 really great people on world building and maps. These are topics that, of course, are very much of interest to those of us who love fantasy. But the author, Adam Bassett, and also the map maker, Jack Shepard, were my guests for this discussion. And the occasion is Adam's release of his book, An Author's Guide to setting design, world building, and cartography. I hope I got that right, Adam. I keep messing up that title. It's a longish title, so. But no, it's a fantastic book. It's chock full of maps and all kinds of really interesting thoughts about world building. So it is an exciting book, and we had a great time just discussing those topics. Jack is, of course, the person who designed the map for the Edan trilogy, both the black and white version that appears in the paperbacks and also the color version that appears in the special edition by the Broken Binding of The Way of Edan. and will appear in the subsequent books in The Prophet of Adan and Return to Adan, which, by the way, those are happening. I'm hoping to get some news about the art beginning pretty soon for the special edition of The Prophet of Adan. But anyway, yeah, I had a great time chatting with Adam and Jack, and that discussion actually was very well received. Speaking of great discussions, I also had a Dear Dr. Fantasy with Sylvia from Library Unbounded, and had a wonderful time chatting with her. We also, by the way, talked about translation, because Sylvia is multilingual and also just a lovely person. And we had a great discussion about our favorite fantasy books. Really great exchange. Just love it when I get to meet a delightful person like Sylvia. When we have so many shared passions for fantasy and great stories, and just a great conversation. I do encourage you to check it out and to check out her channel, Library Unbounded. And I had a discussion of Tigana with Evan from The Nerd Writer. This is something I'm really, really excited about. I'm doing a big read-through of everything that has been published by Gavriel Kay. And I started with Tigana simply because I had read it before. This was the only thing I had read by GGK, and had loved it. I can't remember exactly, somewhere between 20 and 30 years ago when I read it. Loved it, and felt that I wanted to reread it before I started reading everything else. And now we're going to be reading everything in chronological order. So, not chronological, in publication order. So we're going to be reading all of the GGK books in publication order. And I'll be talking with Evan about each of them, and sometimes we'll be joined by some other people. So, for example, probably in early December, I'm going to be chatting with Evan and P.L. Stewart, my good friend P.L. Stewart, author of the Drowned Kingdom Saga, about the first book in the Fionavar tapestry. So yeah, we'll be chatting about that as we begin that trilogy. And then we'll be, after we finish Fionavar in 3 months, we will move on to the next book that Gavriel Kay published, which I believe, skipping Tigana because we already did it, that would make it, I think, A Song for Our Bone. So anyway, yeah. And we'll be joined, Evan and I will be joined by various people for some of the discussions, people who are interested in chatting with us. And so kind of lining those up right now. And I'm very excited to chat with those people as well. Joanna is going to be one of them, as well as Josh from Red Fury Books, and Alan from the Library of Alexandria. So we're going to have some great people just to change things up and liven up the discussions between Evan and myself. But I'm really looking forward to this series of discussions on the works of Gavriel Kay. And next, well, my goodness, I had some really great discussions. The next thing I want to talk about is the discussion I had on literary fantasy, and is it worth it? Is it worth writing literary fantasy these days? And my answer is a big yes. But I had this discussion appropriately with the author Sarah Balstrup. And she is the author of The Way of Unity and its sequel, and she's working on the third book now, I believe. But she is just a very gifted writer. And I compared her writing to, what I said was essentially, this feels like what would have happened if Virginia Woolf had written fantasy, because it is that introspective, and the focus of the writing is more on the inner journey of the characters rather than just a sort of a plot-driven story. And I loved it. I loved my experience in The Way of Unity. Fantastic book about a religious struggle. And Sarah's studies, she's done a lot in religious studies. I think it's a master's degree that she has in that. It really shows in the storytelling as well. So yeah, great discussion about the value of literary fantasy in general. And we do talk about The Way of Unity as well at the end of that video. And then I had a discussion about myth and dream and magic and fantasy. This is what we love, guys. And I had it with Dr. Erik Goodwyn, who is a psychiatrist, a licensed psychiatrist, and a very accomplished person. Also a fantasy author. King of the Forgotten Darkness is his debut, which is out now, and I encourage people to check it out. But I had just a fantastic time chatting with him about So sort of the sort of Joseph Campbell type, hero's journey, but insights in general of a person well versed in psychology, into storytelling, and what's going on. When we're engaging with dreams, it's very similar to what we're doing when we're engaging with stories, particularly fantasy. Just a fascinating discussion with Erik over there. And I'll also be on his channel soon, by the way. I'll shout about it when the video is out, but I did sit down with him and chat about the Edan trilogy. So that will be coming out fairly soon, so be on the lookout for that. And I had a live stream, a discussion of Bernard Cornwell's Excalibur, the third book in the Warlord Chronicles, which is a trilogy. So we did finish that, and I had my usual chat on that with PL. PL Stewart joined me in reading the Warlord Chronicles. Actually, it was a reread for him. This is one of his favorite series of all time. And for the third discussion on Excalibur, we were joined by Will from the Brothers Gwyn. We were initially going to have a bigger group there. Ed had something important going on, and as did our friends over at Tudor Ramble. Unfortunately, Richard and Austin were unable to join us for that discussion, but we might have a discussion over on Tudor Ramble about it once their lives are settled. They have good things going on over there at Tudor Ramble, good things going on, but very busy at the moment, so they were unable to join us. But hopefully we'll get to chat with them in the future. But that was a great discussion, and I really enjoyed the Warlord Chronicles. Fantastic trilogy. It's definitely going to go up there among my favorite trilogies of all time. Love the Arthurian retelling set in what really feels like the Dark Ages of Britain. Unlike most Arthurian stories, which feel much more like the High Middle Ages, Cornwell really grounds it in a sense of history and place, with some very interesting magical elements in there as well. So yeah, great storytelling, great character work. Cornwell is a gifted author, and I can't wait to read more of his stuff. I'd like to actually continue in his Saxon series, which begins with The Last Kingdom, which I have read. And of course, that was made into a TV series as well, which I have not actually watched, but maybe someday. And in terms of what I am reading now, let's talk about One Piece here, because it's been a little while since I have been reading One Piece, and I am doing my homework for the Wano saga. I was told by some very helpful readers that it would be good to be familiar with certain elements of Japanese culture and certain stories and so forth, and I am doing my homework. I'm slowly getting through all those cultural touch points that Oda includes, references, alludes to in the Wano saga. I'm really excited to read Wano. There is so much I've loved about this One Piece journey. But I think Wano is special because what I've been told is that this is where Oda really leans into Japanese culture, into his own culture. And so to get the most from it, or as much as I can possibly get from it, I'm going to familiarize myself with a bunch of things that he does refer to and allude to in Wano. So I'm hoping that will enrich even more what I anticipate will be a really great experience with one of the celebrated sagas of this fantastic story, One Piece. And so I'm really looking forward to returning to my buddies, my nakama, Luffy and the gang, the Straw Hats. I always miss them when I'm not reading One Piece, but I'll be back soon. And in terms of audiobooks, so I've been listening to a bunch of SPFBO champions on audiobook and loving the experience. So if you're not familiar, I am one of the judges for SPFBO, and this year we're doing the Tournament of Champions. So the past 10 years have given us some great champions in SPFBO, and they're essentially what's happening now is the judge panels are rating their favorites. So we're whichever of these 10 past champions gets the most love, according to this year's judges, will be the champion of champions. And this is a very difficult task, let me tell you. These are great books. Every single one of these champions that I've read so far and reviewed has been outstanding. And that is also the case for the three that I most recently listened to. Orconomics, just Zachary Pike does some amazing stuff here. It is a satire, and he pulls off the satire brilliantly. And he manages, like all great satires, to include some really important social commentary in the story. So it's amusing, it's fun, it's endearing, but there's also some really important social commentary in Orconomics that I actually admire a lot. I think he does a great job with that, and it's playing off a lot of the tropes and that sort of thing from the fantasy genre. And then, of course, I moved on to the next one, which was The Grey Bastards. Jonathan French does a really interesting thing in The Grey Bastards. It's very, I would say this is the most of all the champions I've read so far. This is the most really grimdark, I guess. But it features half-orc protagonists, and it is a very gritty, gray world where there's just a lot of very dark things going on, and there is though in the midst of all that there is some nobility, and it is one of the great things about the main character, that he does manage in the midst of all this to maintain some integrity, a sense of honor, although he is just very much a grimdark character, morally gray and all that for sure. But Jonathan French is a very gifted storyteller, so I'm looking forward to talking about that one as well. And then there was the most recent one I listened to, Justin Lee Anderson's The Lost War, which, again, wow, this is a great story in so many ways. This one delivered, of all the SPFBO books I've read so far, this one delivered the most surprises, I would say. This one got me a couple times with some of the little gotcha kind of things. I don't want to say too much because it would be spoilery, but he pulls that off pretty brilliantly. There were some very interesting things that happen in the course of this that kind of mess with your head a bit. But it can also feel very much like a sort of a D&D adventure at the same time. I'll be explaining all that and more when I review them. I'm going to review those 3 together and place them among the 10 wherever they're going to be. So be on the lookout for that video. And I will next be listening to The Thief Who Pulled on Trouble's Braids, another past winner of SPFBO. I just started it, and I'm really excited because it's starting out really great. Now my physical reads. Let's talk about that. I already mentioned Tigana and Excalibur, so let's just talk about To Green Angel Tower. This is the 3rd or 4th, depending on how you look at it. It's the trilogy that's a tetralogy. Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn by Tad Williams. Doesn't really matter to me whether you call it a trilogy or a tetralogy. It is just great fantasy. What I said recently when I was talking with some friends over at Brian's channel, BellTube, what I said was that this trilogy, tetralogy, whatever, this series, I'm going to call it a series now, it's like a tweed jacket for me. It just fits me perfectly. I love this series so much. This kind of classical fantasy on the cusp of modern fantasy. And Tad Williams is such a gifted writer in terms of the prose and everything else. And let me tell you, the last few hundred pages of To Green Angel Tower, just heart-stopping stuff, but also the last 100 pages or so, deeply emotional as well. He had me in tears there. And I had read this before. This is a reread for me. So I pretty much knew what was coming, but oh my goodness, Tad Williams really got me here. Just great stuff. I love the coming of age element of this, following along with characters like Simon and Miriamel, with some really great companions like Benebik. The friendships that emerge in the course of this harrowing, world-changing story are just so beautiful. And the world that I felt so thoroughly immersed in, with its mythology and its very mystical elements, and the different peoples and cultures and whatnot, just loved every bit of it. So I'm so glad I returned to Austin Ard, and I intend to continue. So I'm going to be talking with my good friend Nikhil from Shelf Esteem about Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. And then we are going to be continuing in Austin Ard with the sequel series by Tad Williams. So I'm really excited about that. That's going to be taking up a good chunk of 2026 for me. Some more Tad Williams, all a good thing for me. And then, oh my goodness, there's so much excitement here for what I'm reading, because next I am reading, or actually starting today, this very day, No Life Forsaken by Steven Erikson. This is the second book in the Witness series. It is a sequel series to the Malazan Book of the Fallen, and Steven Erikson, if you don't know, is my favorite author of all time. I am just so excited to be returning to the Malazan world here. And yeah, I'm going to be chatting about this with Alan from the Library of Alexandria, who's organizing. I don't know how many people Alan is inviting, but I think there'll be a few of us there. And I don't know exactly when, but probably in the next couple weeks. Also, on my channel, I'm going to be chatting with the Nemesis, AP Canavan, a critical dragon, about No Life Forsaken, for which he was the developmental editor. Or I guess he goes by Alpha. No, what is it? What is it that he's called when he's reading for Steven Erikson, Ian Esselmont? He calls himself something else, but essentially he's like a developmental editor for those guys. So yeah, I'm so excited to be reading this and discussing it. I'm anticipating this could be book of the year for me. We shall see. I'm hearing good things. I'm hearing good things from people whose opinions I value very much. So I'm excited. Like Jimmy was saying, Jimmy over at Chatting with Nuts was saying that he thinks this is some of Erikson's best. So, whoa, holy cow. So yeah, I'm really excited to be diving into this wonderful thing. And after I'm done with that, it's going to be Titus Groans, the first book in the Gormenghast trilogy, or series, I guess, because there was one written later that was finished by Mervyn Peake's wife, I think. And there's also perhaps a short story or something. But anyway, I'm starting Gormenghast, and I'm going to be chatting about it with Jay from A Contemplative Reader. Very excited to get to this. I had not read it before. I'm a little embarrassed that I had never read this. And you could say it's fantasy if you want. Some people prefer to call it a gothic fiction or something of that nature. Whatever you want to call it, I'm excited to read it. And I hear great things about Mervyn Peake's prose as well. So yay, finally going to happen. And when I finish that, it's going to be another GJK read. I alluded to the fact earlier that we're going to be going through the works of Guy Gavriel Kay, and so we're going back to the beginning after having done Tigana, and I'll be reading The Summer Tree, and this is the first book in the Fionavar Tapestry. And again, as I said earlier, I'll be talking about it in early December, and I think that's probably enough for now. It never ends, but that's a good thing, I think, right? That we'll never, ever be able to read all the books we want to read, but we're going to have a great time trying, and we're going to have a great time talking about it here. And I'm just so thankful to all of you for being here for me during all these journeys. But that is it for me for now. Until next time.